Oh, hello. Welcome to another Table Pimples video. Today we're going to have a bit of a physical product review of the Hirotek Circle, the Necron Kill Team, and a build guide, and I'll try and point out any pitfalls and problems that I encountered along the way. Just to be really clear, so this is my entire roster for Kill Team, for the Necron Kill Team. So this doesn't include... This includes models that we're not going to talk about today. We're just going to review what's in the box set, more or less. Let's get straight into it. So, we're going to start with the Technomancer. Honestly, there's not much to say here with the Technomancer. It's a relatively new Games Workshop character kit. You just build it along following the one-page instructions. It's really deceptively simple, especially like they've included this little bit here to help you really understand where you put parts B7 and where you put part B8. There's no options on the kits, so basically you just build the kit. I will say at this point that if you're inclined to go out and buy the other cryptic options, this fellow's a pain in the backside. But the Technomancer that you get in the kit, it's perfectly fine, easy to build. Just get on with it and build it. Not much to say here. Moving on. So the Apprentice. So here's the first one where I have something to say. The Apprentice is mostly a new model. All the pieces of the Apprentice are on the upgrade sprue, the small new sprue that's made of new parts, except the legs. He uses the legs, so wherever you see a part labelled with a C, going forward, so you'll notice back on the Technomancer all his parts are labelled with B because he's basically just a separate kit that's dropped into the box. With the Apprentice, wherever you see a part labelled with C, that's coming off the old classic vintage Necron Immortals / Deathmarks kit, and wherever you see a part labelled D, that's coming off the brand new upgrade sprue. This guy is an entirely new model with some old legs. So, a couple of things here. First of all, make sure you build him first. You want to use those exact C5 legs because the D10, the loincloth thing, is designed to mate with that exact pair of legs. So you do need to make use of exactly this pair of legs. Could Games Workshop not just have thrown in an extra pair of legs? You know, it just seems really wasteful because now I have an entire Immortal or Deathmark without a pair of legs sitting on a sprue on a shelf over there. So, yeah. Other than that, there's no problems with the model. Because they're these really old legs, they're like a big ball and socket joint. I'm going to talk about this big ball and socket joint a few times. People say they remember the golden age of Games Workshop miniatures where everything was more posable. Because this is just literally a big ball and a thing, and there's no kind of pin to lock it, you have to be really careful when these are drying that the torso doesn't start to just creep forwards and your Necrons all end up looking at the ground. So you need to kind of lie them flat on their backs for that join to set. And for my money, it doesn't really add that much in the way of posability, because there's clearly a correct angle to put them on at where they look best. But yeah, I think it's a consequence of building on top of an older kit. You've got to accept that just sort of very basic ball joint on top of the spine. The next thing in the booklet. Okay, so the next thing in the booklet is Deathmarks. I strongly advise you not to build the Deathmarks next. I strongly advise you to wait until after you've done the Despotech and the Immortals to build your Deathmark, because if you are building these from one box, you are only going to build one Deathmark. I've got three in the picture. Because as you can see, I had some Deathmarks. So Zimbad just kind of chucked these at me at work and said, "Here, take these Deathmarks, I don't want them." And he'd already undercoated them black, so I pulled off their heads with a pair of pliers and put on the three new Deathmark heads. These are the cool variant heads. So you can see here, it says you've got a choice of 4 heads. There's the cool variant heads or the bog standard head. The bog standard head is repeated 5 times on the old sprue. So it's cool that they gave you these variant heads. You only want one Deathmark. They're not very good in Kill Team. So it's like, if you're new, and you're like a younger hobbyist or just new to Kill Team, and you're building this kit, the order the instructions are presented in, and the fact that you have 3 cool heads for Deathmarks, Like, you're going to come out of this process with 3 death marks. And you don't want 3 death marks. From a gameplay perspective, like, I don't win tournaments. I don't really win that many games. But I can see that you don't want 3 death marks. So, I will come back to the death marks, or I will mention later, now go and build a death mark. And here, you've got a choice of arms, but again, you're going to want to use some of these arms later on with your Immortals. Okay, and again, it gives you a choice of all 5 legs. We know that we've already used, you know, which pair of legs was it? C5. So C5 has gone because we have built our Apprentech, so we've got a choice of 4 pairs of legs. But we look over on the Despotech, and yet again, the Despotech says, oh, use legs C4. Now, you could use a different pair of legs, but, you know, it does tell you to use a specific pair of legs. I can't see a reason why you couldn't use any legs that you wanted here, but it does tell you to use a particular pair. What's really important with the Despotech is that he uses a particular gun. So if you're building the Gorse variant, you want to use the gun which is built out of C14, C28, C27. Because these Necrons have the pipes, half the pipe is on the gun and half the pipe is on the backpack, and you've got to match them up or your pipes won't link up together. And then that goes with ARM C30, or if you're doing a Tesla, you do C29 and again ARM C30, and it links up with the pipe. So be careful and use the correct gun and build this guy before you go and you build your Immortals. So this guy uses a few more, you know, obviously he uses the legs from the standard kit. He uses the gun arms, both arms from the standard kit, but otherwise his parts are all from the upgrade frame. As I said in my kind of review earlier last week, I strongly recommend that you build the Tesla guy, because you can use, so this here is the Tesla Despotech from this kit. This here, just for reference in the smaller picture, is the Royal Warden. Royal Wardens are really cheaply available, so if you've got someone that's just started 40k, or has just bought any of the 40k starter sets, or bought the first issue of Imperium magazine, or I think the Necron Royal Warden might just be the most cheaply available 40k model in the world right now. Perhaps after that one Intercessor that they give away at Games Workshop. But the second most readily available model in the world might be the Royal Warden. Had a look on eBay, you can get one for like £4. So a Royal Warden makes a really good Ghost Cannon. Despotech, you can see, I mean, the Despotech has got bigger antennae, and the Royal Warden has a few more bits of jingle-jangle jewellery stuff, but they're basically the same thing, aren't they? Really? Now, in terms of jingle-jangle jewellery, you will notice that on Games Workshop's instructions, they do not tell you to use piece D5, that's the jewellery piece, if you're building the Tesla Blaster. It totally goes on, I've put it on. I guess maybe the angle is a bit weird, the physics don't quite work, but I like it there. I think it looks better with it than without it. It makes him look more Despotech adjacent and ties in with the Royal Warden who's being the other Despotech. But yeah, strongly recommend building the Tesla. Because this is an older kit, the Tesla gun itself was kind of a bitch to clean up. There was a lot of mould lines on it. The older kits get, the more likely they are to get mould lines on. That's just one of those facts of life. So had to kind of go. I can still see, in fact, here, because I've got a nice new phone with a new macro facility on it, which is telling me there's a hair here, and I can see there's a bit of mould line there that I missed. But you know, what can you do? Yes, that's the Despotech. Immortals. So here's if there's a point to this video, it is this section. Because Immortals are weird. First of all, the kit is showing its age. Not only have you got the issue with the waist joint that I talked about before, the shoulders are annoying, whether you end up wanting to use green stuff, or sprue goo, or just loads of glue in there and push them really tight, and then scrape the seam afterwards. Getting those shoulders to a smooth curved fit is difficult. Okay? So the instructions, what are they telling us? Well, this bit tells us that basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 chess pieces. They look subtly different, very, very subtly different. It's telling us these are all interchangeable and we'll call them part 17 going forwards. Okay. Now, the top instructions here and the bottom instructions here are the same set of instructions. Because for whatever reason, your sprue replicates one set of gun arms. So if you were building this back in the day to build 5 Necron Immortals with Ghost Blasters, you'd end up with 2 clones. Thankfully we're not doing that because we're building our Despotech and we're building our Prentech at a bare minimum, and we're probably building a Deathmark as well. So we're probably building 2 or 3 of these guys. So there's no need for you to build the top one and the bottom one because then they'll look the same. So don't do that. We also can't build the middle one because we've used parts from the middle one to make our Despotech. Okay, so that leaves us with the top, number 2 and number 4 as the Immortals that we're going to build. Now, thankfully, you don't want any more than 3 Immortals, so I built 3 because I already have a set of Deathmarks to use. Realistically, you're probably going to build 2. Doesn't really matter if you build the first one and the second one, or the first one and the third one, or the second one and the third one. Pick 2, build them, and then whichever parts you've got left, then you go back and build a Deathmark with the bits that you have left, and then you're not going to mess yourself up, right? That's about all there is to it. The heads are all identical, which is really upsetting, and there's no extra heads for the Immortals. If you're wondering which to build, I suggest, if you're literally building from one box, right, and you don't know if the set's for you, you're going to build your Technomancer, you're going to build your Prentech, you're going to build 1 Deathmark, right, 1 of them. You're going to build a Despotech with a Tesla gun. You're going to build 2 more Immortals with Tesla guns, I think, right? This is not to say you'll never want the Ghost Blaster, right? But I think that the very narrow window where the Ghost Blaster is the best gun is when you're fighting against elite teams in the open world. So the Tesla is better against 10 model or more teams and into the dark. So I think the Tesla's probably all coming. If you know that all your games are against, like, your mate Larry, and Larry only ever plays Intercessors, and you only ever play on the Octarius terrain, and that's your lived experience, then go all Ghosts, absolutely. You might even want to, I mean, I wouldn't, just for expandability later, you might even want to build this guy with the Ghost Flare, so you don't have to get a Royal Warden. If you really want to bare bones it, if you know that's all you're ever going to do with it. But I want to give you the advice to enable you to have a team that's useful, a useful collection of miniatures to build from usefully in the future. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, and then the plasma sights are brand new from the UK. You just put them together, they just work. They're in new components, no problems with those. That's it, final thoughts. So there are some pitfalls here that could be avoided by Games Workshop. I really think that the Deathmark, just by moving the Deathmark instructions in the booklet, so that they were after the instructions for the Immortals, so that the instruction booklet kind of went, you know, started off as it did with the Technomancer, fine, it doesn't matter. Then the Apprentice, then we would have skipped the Deathmarks and had the instructions for the Despotech, then the Immortals, and finally the Deathmark after that. That would have been a better way of laying out the booklet. I just think you'll get to the Deathmarks, you'll use random things, and you turn over the page and be like, oh, no, I can't build my Despotech. What? So, don't do that. I do, like I say, fear a lot of new players will build 3 Deathmarks because they've got cool heads, because they look cool, because all the marketing materials have showed you Deathmarks, and because it says build Deathmarks before it says there's anything else in the book. Again, rules-wise, you probably only want 1 Deathmark. I've gone for the full. This is like almost everything I could possibly need. I could go 3 Deathmarks if I wanted to. I almost certainly never will, or 3 Tesla guys, or 3 Ghost guys. I only really ended up building 3 Deathmarks because I wanted to paint all 3 of the variant heads because they look cool. And, you know, future-proofing in case balanced data slates change things up. What else? So, some of the stuff, I have new equipment, so I had a bit of a PC upgrade, so if there's any little technical bits, if anything's really much worse for some reason, or much better, weirdly, let me know so I can get onto that. I have a bit of a cold, a bit of a head cold. I was really quite sort of sorry for myself yesterday. It's clearing up a little bit, so if I sound a bit kind of that's why. A lot of it going around, so yeah. Have done COVID tests, it's not COVID. Getting some games in with Kill Team tomorrow. I'm going to be playing my Necrons, playing them unpainted, which is heresy for me, but I want to see what they're like. I will have some games against Zimbad and let you know how those go. I think that is everything that is salient. There are 78 more subscribers needed for to get to 1k, so if you've enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed other videos on the channel, please do consider subscribing. That would really help me out, and it doesn't cost you anything. Just press the button. Otherwise, like and comment, and those things are really good as well. And thanks everybody, cheerio. I hope you have a great... Ooh, my throat's starting to go, isn't it? It's a good job the videos are nearly over. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and cheerio, folks.